Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done 2 videos in 1 week, but I finally managed to have time to do it. And today we're going to be talking about my anticipated releases for April, May, and June. The next 3 months of the year. I did one at the very end of 2023 talking about my anticipated releases for the first 3 months. Now I'm coming back for the next 3 months. Hopefully I can continue this all year round. I have a very old laptop with a separate mouse here with me because the mouse on the laptop doesn't work. And so it's probably gonna make a little bit of like extra noise here today. But I have quite the list for you. We have everything from graphic novels to, I think there's like a YA thriller, some historical fiction, some fantasy, some middle grade fantasy. There's just a little bit of everything going on in this list because I kind of read a little bit of everything depending on my mood in the moment. So generally when I share these lists, I haven't read the books before. I don't think I have read any of the books on this list. Sometimes I get some early, like advanced reader copies, but I have not read any of these. I'm just double checking. No, I've not read any of these. So I am not saying these are recommendations exactly. Some of these I've read other books in the series or other books by this author, so I'm hoping they're good, but I can't guarantee it. So just a little caveat, don't read it and then be severely disappointed in me because it's terrible. So we're gonna go in date order. We're gonna start with April. There are quite a few books coming out right away here in April. So the very first one on April 2nd is the 3rd book in the Lightfall series. This is a graphic novel, middle grade fantasy series that I will say right off the bat, like I'm not good at reading graphic novels. My brain prefers more words to pictures, but the Lightfall books have the best illustrations I've ever seen in graphic novels. Tim Probert, he does the words and the illustrations, and they're just phenomenal. Book 1 was very warm tones, book 2 is very cool tones, book 3 is called The Dark Times, so I'm curious to see what color palette he goes for. Even if it is all really dark, I think he could do that well, but I'm curious. So in this one we're following a girl, I feel like her name was, oh, I don't remember it. I don't remember her name. She's a human and I think her uncle is a pig wizard, but he disappeared and she's looking for him, as well as there was something to do with light. I mean, like it's called Lightfall. And yeah, I need to reread from the beginning I think now because it's been a while since I read book 1, but I really enjoyed the series for the illustrations. And my son, he's been asking probably for the last 6 months when this next book is coming out because he really enjoys them. So that is coming out on the 2nd. Also on the 2nd is a book, a Christian nonfiction book by Kevin D. Young. So I don't know what I've all read from him before, but he does the biggest story. He does that book plus the biggest story Bible storybook or whatever that was called. But he has a book coming out called The Not So Secret Secret to Reaching the Next Generation. And this one says 5 Christ-like ways to inspire the next generation for Christ. Church leaders are continuously concerned they might lose the next generation of faithful believers. They've scoured for practical and effective ways to disciple young Christians, often resorting to adopting new and exciting programs, emotional appeals, or merely moralism. However these helpful attempts are, they all seem to lack one critical element: Christ. Oh, so this is just a booklet. In this concise booklet, best-selling author Kevin D. Young presents 5 Christ-like ways to effectively communicate the Christian faith and practice with the next generation. So then, oh, it's only 48 pages. Easy. This is an easy one to check off of the list. So like I said, that one's coming out April 2nd as well. And then we are on to April 9th. And there is a whole lot of books coming out on April 9th. The first one I'm going to talk about, I just barely got in the mail. So I do own an ARC copy now, but I haven't read it yet. It is The Chaos Grid by Lindsay Llewellyn. First of all, she has amazing character art. And I don't know if she made this herself. I think she might have. She sent me the character art for the book and it's fabulous. I was showing these 2 pictures to the 3-year-old. She's very, my 3-year-old is very sassy. I said, would you like pink hair or blue hair? And she says both. So this book is set in a futuristic Texas in 2224 and is a dystopian science fiction type story about, it says, when mankind's attempt to control nature backfires, Texas descends into a wasteland. Storms rage and the ravenous beasts roam the outer grid. The only safe havens rest inside the tech-obsessed domed cities. Oh, domed cities. I can read. But when her parents are murdered inside the Plex City Dome, 17-year-old Juniper Conway wants revenge. Yeah, so I'm not sure. But I do know that I'm going to Texas in April, and so I'm thinking this would be a really cool book to take along and read in Texas, since it's set in futuristic Texas. So this wasn't on my April TBR because I didn't get it in at that point when I made the list, but I think it's going to end up being read in April. Then also on the 9th we have The Songbird of Hope Hill. This is by Kim Vogel Sawyer, and I don't think I've ever read anything by her. On my list here I wrote down that someone recommended this on my Q1 video of anticipated releases I did, and also that there's a character named Ephraim in it, so I'm intrigued by that because that's my son's name. This is, I think, probably Christian historical fiction. A young woman longs to know true love after escaping from a hopeless situation at a house of ill repute in this heartwarming novel inspired by historical events. Birdie only recently started working at Lyda's Palace, a house of ill repute at the edge of Texas. There's a theme here. Tulsa, Texas. Abandoned and penniless, she turned to someone she thought was a friend, but instead it turned out to be a nightmare. She wants to leave, but doesn't know how. And how can she ever feel clean again? When Reverend Isaiah Overly and his son Ephraim, oh, that's so funny because my son's first names are, or his first name is Ephraim and one of his middle names is Isaiah. So we got both of them right there. Arrive, offering a safe haven and a better life for any of the women who want to leave. Birdie takes a chance. So yeah, I'm just curious about that. Definitely, like, Christian historical fiction is not something I have gravitated to, but there are just a few things that check boxes for me that make me interested in it. Also on the 9th, Jess Connolly has another book coming out. This one is called Tired of Being Tired. Receiving God's Realistic Rest for Your Soul Deep Exhaustion. So this is Christian nonfiction. And I'm feeling pretty good right now, but I definitely have seasons where this title, Tired of Being Tired, seemed very fitting, and so I think this would be a good one for during that time. She shows you how to find the source of your fatigue, scripts for saying no and strategies to protect your peace, practices for bringing realistic rest into your daily and weekly rhythms. You can break the cycle of living like you're constantly on the hook and come to Jesus to find rest for your weary and burdened soul. So I've enjoyed the books that I've read by her before. Also on the 9th is Jamie Jo Wright's upcoming book, Night Falls on Predicament Avenue, and this is a Jamie Jo Wright book, so I want to read it. I've currently read, I think, pretty much all of them. I think there might be one or two of like her older books that I haven't read. So she generally does dual timeline, Christian historical suspense type of stories. So we're in 1910. Effie James is living a dream for two. Her younger sister is harboring a secret that has left timid Effie determined to fulfill her daring sister's grand plan of seeking out adventure in their small Iowa town. When a British gentleman arrives, disrupting their peace with efforts to find the wife many claim lived her final days at the now abandoned house at 322 Predicament Avenue, she is thrust into intrigue she couldn't have prepared for. But what she finds inside will forever link her to the scandal staining the house's walls and to a woman whose secrets promise a curse. And then we are a century later with Nora Richmond, who is living out her late twin's dream of running their great aunt's bed and breakfast on Predicament Avenue. So her stories always have tie-ins together, and her books, I feel like she writes really heavy and dark books with like heavy topics, but she has a light that shines through them more than a lot of books that I've read. So I really like that. One last one for the 9th, The Elusive Truth of Lily Temple by Joanna Davidson Politano. So this one, I think she is set in Edwardian England in 1903, and I think all or most of her other ones were Victorian England, so slightly newer timeline here. I think her last release was The Lost Melody, and that has been my absolute favorite from her, so I'm a little worried to read another one just because I want them to get better and better, but a person can't always expect that. But this one, also the cover, I love the rose border. That is so beautiful. It says, Peter Driscoll, an underground investigator to the wealthy, has never met anyone like Lily Temple. Okay, well, like the whole PI aspect of things, like I do like that. The beautiful silent film actress spins fairy tales and plays frivolous roles in front of the camera, but beneath the costumes and stage makeup is a woman with quick wit and a murky past. That's all I'll say. I mean, I feel like it will probably be good, hence why it's on this list. Then on the 23rd of April, my last one for April is a book by Colleen Hoover. Christine Hoover. No, not Colleen Hoover. Very, very, very different people. So this is Christian fiction, and I feel like I have read something by her before. Christine Hoover, not Colleen Hoover. Oh yeah, she wrote Messy, Beautiful Friendship, which I enjoyed. I started The Church Planting Wife. I haven't finished it. Wasn't there something else too? Maybe not. So this one, You Are Not Forgotten, Discovering the God Who Sees the Overlooked and Disregarded. I feel like this is also a book that feels like it would be really good for certain seasons in life. It says, have you ever felt forgotten, disregarded, wounded, invisible, or invalidated by others? Do you ever experience the pain and anger of feeling unseen? Has this left you wondering why, if you're truly worthy of being acknowledged, listened to, and loved? If you've asked these questions, you are not alone. She's found that none of us are the first to feel overlooked or forgotten, and yet God has always been a God who sees. So that's the theme of that book by Christine Hoover, not Colleen Hoover. Then I think we are into May. The first one I have on my list is coming out May 7th. Another non-fiction, I believe it's Christian non-fiction, but I've never read anything by either of these authors. This was totally the title that got me. Caring for Children from Hard Places, How to Help Children and Teens with a Traumatic Past. And as someone that has adopted a child internationally and has to foster children, we've got a lot of trauma in our home. So this is just all about that. In Caring for Children from Hard Places, they discuss the reasons behind why children and teens sometimes exhibit potentially disruptive behavior. Together, they offer practical strategies on training, equipping, and resourcing staff and volunteers to provide a responsive environment for children with behavioral challenges. See, okay, maybe this won't be as applicable as I was originally thinking. Like, I'm not having necessarily issues with my kids, but they have a lot of trauma, so I think it would be a good resource to have. Also on the 7th is a new book by Jennifer Donnelly. She's coming out with another YA fairy tale retelling, Beastly Beauty. I've read a couple of books by her. I really enjoyed Stepsister, which was kind of like a Cinderella retelling thing. So this one is gender swapped, so Beauty is a guy and Beast is a girl. What makes a girl beastly? Is it having too much ambition, being too proud, taking up too much space, or is it just wanting something, anything, too badly? That's the problem Arabella faces when she makes her debut in society. Her parents want her to be sweet and compliant so she can marry well, but try as she might, Arabella can't extinguish the fire burning inside her, the source of her deepest wishes, her wildest dreams. I don't know, somehow we will take that and have a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I'm looking forward to it. Stepsister was really good, and A Northern Light is a very different historical fiction book by her that I did not enjoy. Okay, next book, I think this is also May 7th. It's called And Then Boom, and this is by Lisa Phipps. I read Starfish by her, which was a free verse novel about a girl that was overweight, and this looks like it's also a free verse novel. This one is about a poverty-stricken boy. Joe Oak is used to living on unsteady ground. His mom can't be depended on as she never stays around long enough once she gets the itch. And now he and his beloved grandmother find themselves without a home. Fortunately, Joe has an outlet in his journals and drawings and takes comfort from the lessons of comic books. Superheroes have a lot of and then boom moments where everything threatens to go bust, but somehow they land on their feet. It sounds good. Starfish, I'm pretty sure that's the title of her other one. It was good. It was heavy. I wanted to punch the mother from the book in the face. I'm realizing this is like another mother issue, but she wrote it really well. I think this is my last one from, well, there's a couple more, May 7th. This one is Christian nonfiction. It's the Joy Challenge. Discover the ancient secret to experiencing worry-defeating, circumstance-defying happiness. And so this is all about choosing joy, which kind of reminds me of The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin, but Christian. So I have read something by this author before, and I remember I looked it up, and now I forget what it was. Oh, he wrote the story, The Bible is One Continuing Story of God. I haven't actually read that. Okay, I just recognize his name from there. In the Joy Challenge, he shares the secret to experiencing genuine joyfulness, the kind of resilient happiness that doesn't evaporate in the face of challenges and setbacks, bringing together research about the science of happiness with the Apostle Paul's masterclass on joy in the book of Philippians. The Joy Challenge will help you discover the vital link between increasing your joy and winning the battle against worry and anxiety, develop patterns and mindsets of gratefulness and forgiveness that clear obstacles to happiness, and access the kind of circumstance-defying contentment that opens the door to a truly fulfilled life, even when there's a gap between the life you have now and the life you hope for. I think that sounds good. I was just saying like 6 months ago or so that I wished somebody would write a Christian version of the Happiness Project, and it sounds like that's what it's going to be. Okay, the last one for May 7th is The One and Only Family by Catherine Applegate. So she's the one that wrote The One and Only Ivan, The One and Only Bob, and The One and Only Ruby. I only ever read The One and Only Ivan, and I liked it, but obviously not enough that I like continued the series, and I believe this is the sequel of the series. She invites readers back into Ivan's world for one last adventure, his most exciting yet. And so I'm assuming we're gonna get all of those characters from the 3 books in one story. I'm interested, like I've got my eye on this book, but I'm probably not picking it up anytime soon since I should read the 2 before it that I haven't read yet first. But we really did enjoy The One and Only Ivan years ago when we read it in our homeschool. We have 2 books for May 14th. The first one is a YA historical, possibly historical mystery book. It's called The Brightwood Code. Almost lost my mouse there. This author I read, what did I read by her? The Girl in the Blue Coat, I think. That was a pretty good book, but not one that I kept on my shelves. Like, not good enough for me to like reread or recommend a ton, but I did enjoy it, so I'm curious about this one. It says 7 months ago, Ida was on the World War I front lines as one of the 200 Hello Girls, female switchboard operators employed by the US Army. She spent her nights memorizing secret connection codes to stay ahead of spying enemies, and her days connecting calls between platoons and bases and generals, all trying to survive and win a brutal war. Their lives were in her hands, and one day, in fateful seconds, everything went wrong. And then also on that same date, there is Locked in Pursuit, which is the Electra McDonnell book number 4. So I believe I've read the first 3 books. I feel like it's been a while since the 3rd one was released. Yeah, so I gave the first 2 5 stars, the 3rd one 4 stars. So I'm curious to continue with this series. This is about Electra McDonnell. So this is World War II. In the first chapter of the first book, we find out that her family, they are locksmiths, and they're spending their time in World War II breaking into people's safes and stealing. Like, they've also always been thieves, but they get caught in the very first chapter of book 1 and kind of get turned into spies for the government. I won't really say much more than that. Every book has been kind of like some kind of mission, and I've just enjoyed it. I like the humor. I like Ellie as our main character, and so I'm gonna continue it until I feel like it's either run its course or it's gone downhill, but I've enjoyed the first 3. Now, May 21st must be a Tuesday this year. This is my birthday. There are 2 books coming out then. Jefferson Bethke is coming out with a new book. It's called Fighting Shadows, overcoming 7 lies that keep men from becoming fully alive. And I realized, like, I'm not a man, but I like to, well, I haven't even read, I want to read The Men We Need by Brant Hansen at some point as well. We own it, borrowed it out to someone, so I haven't read it. But I want to read these books because I'm raising boys. So this one says, in a world that's grown increasingly confused about and hostile toward the very notion of masculinity, Jefferson Bethke, and he writes this with John Tyson, I don't know who that guy is, send a powerful call to men. It's time to step into the light of Jesus' vision for you as a man. So it sounds similar to The Men We Need. Also, on the topic of The Men We Need, it might have just come out, or it's about to. I should look at this. They're putting out The Young Men We Need. Oh, well, that's coming out April 30th. So also add that to your list. Jared said The Men We Need was really good. And I think this one is supposed to be for, it says 14 and up. But I don't know. Well, we're definitely going to buy it, and then I'm going to read it also and see what age I think it's really for. So there's that one on the 21st, and then also on the 21st, I don't know how I found this book exactly. I don't think I've ever read anything by this author. It's called The Lamplighter, but it's supposed to be like YA historical fiction, gothic, mystery, maybe some fantasy. It's got a lot of tags on Goodreads already, and I kind of like books with some gothic vibes if done well. So it says, it's an honor to bring light to the dark. In the whaling village of Warbler, the whaling village of Warbler is famous for its lucky ship figureheads and infamous for people disappearing into the nightly fog. In this murky locale, the lamplighter position is synonymous with safety and protection, and it's a position Temperance assumes when her father is found hanging from one of the lampposts. Though Tempe proves competent, the town is still hesitant to let a woman handle this responsibility. When a girl goes missing after 2 lamps go out, her ability to provide for her mother and younger sister hangs in the balance. She scrambles for answers. More villagers vanish under her watch. She discovers the unsettling truths about the famous Warbler figureheads and her own beloved father. I don't know, it sounds interesting. Okay, now we are into June. The problem with like doing these anticipated releases a couple months ahead of time is there probably will be more books that come out in June that I'm unaware of right now, but this is what I know right now. On the 18th, Born of Gilded Mountains, which will be Amanda Dykes' newest book, is coming out. I am still a couple books behind of her books, but I'm interested in this one. It says, when newcomer Mercy Windsor arrives at Mercy Peak in 1948. Oh, so this is much later than I've read of hers. After a scandal shatters her gilded world as Hollywood's beloved leading lady, she is determined to forge a new life in obscurity in this time-forgotten Colorado haven. She purchases Wildwood, an abandoned estate with a haunting history, and begins to restore it to its former glory. But as she does, her every move tugs at the threads of that mountain's lore, unearthing what became of her long-lost pen pal, Rusty Bright, and the whereabouts of the infamous Galloping Goose Engine No. 8, which vanished years ago, along with the mailbag it carried, whose contents could change the course of countless lives. I don't know, usually hers are like dual timeline, but this one doesn't seem to be. Yeah, I'm curious. Okay, this other one, next one, is coming out the same date, June 18th, and this was just a title, like I'm intrigued because of the title. It's How to Read a Book, which I do actually have a book on my shelf with that same title, but this is a novel, and it's a novel, it's books about books, which is always an intriguing subgenre to me. This one is about Violet, a 22-year-old from rural Abbott Falls, Maine. She's being released from prison after serving 22 months for a drunk driving crash that killed a local kindergarten teacher. Harriet Larson, a retired English teacher who runs the prison book club, is facing the unsettling prospect of an empty nest. And Frank, a retired machinist, hasn't yet come to grips with the complications of his marriage to the woman Violet killed. Okay, so all these people are kind of like, they've got connections, and the 3 encounter each other one morning at a bookstore in Portland. That's really all I want to know. I'm just curious. If you guys have read it, or like, you know, down the road if you give it a try, I'm curious to know your thoughts. I have 2 books left, one more on June 18th and one on the 25th. The last one on the 18th is The Girl Who Kept the Castle. This is a middle grade fantasy story by Ryan Grodin, who wrote Wolf by Wolf and Blood for Blood. I've really enjoyed that duology. And so this is tagged as Nevermore meets Howl's Moving Castle. I enjoyed Nevermore. I've never got on the train of Howl's Moving Castle. I know so many people love it. This is the first in a duology. And it's perfect for fans of wizards, dragons, magical castles, spectacular spells, and a spunky cat who may not be what he seems. If there's going to be a cat in there, I'm always interested. Wizard West was dead for nearly an entire day before he noticed, and it is up to Fate, the daughter of West's groundskeeper, to inform the wizard that he is a ghost who has lost all his magical powers. But not before the wizard tries transforming her into a cat. To make matters worse, the enchanted castle of Silurdur, the only home that Fae has ever known, will fall apart at the next full moon if its foundation spells can't be renewed. After, sort of, accepting his demise, West decides to host a competition to choose his successor. I like the humor that I'm getting from the snippet here, the synopsis, so if the book has this kind of humor, that's great. And the very last one, I read a book by this author years ago, The Prophet Calls, it's like a cultish book. This is a young adult thriller called Girls Like Her. It says a raw, gripping, authentic, and boldly original novel about a 15-year-old Texas girl set to stand trial for murder, and the one person who might be able to help her clear her name. Wait, this is another Texas book. A wealthy businessman is dead, and 15-year-old Ruby Monroe is in a Dallas jail awaiting trial for his murder. Ruby has no one she can count on. No one except her state-appointed caseworker, a woman named Cadence Ware. In Ruby's experience, that's not anyone she can trust. Cadence is familiar with the cold reality of Ruby's situation even before she was arrested. Angry and alone, homeless and hungry, breaking the law just to survive, Ruby is the kind of girl no one wants to listen to, especially not the prosecutor who wants to put her away for life. But no one knows the story, the real story, of what happened the day Ruby met the man who would end up dead. I don't know, it's intriguing. Apparently I was talking so long that my camera cut out, so hopefully it didn't cut out what I was saying. And then upcoming in August, I want to just say I know that My Salty Mary, the book 3 in the My Mary series, is coming out October 1st. Jimmy Jo Wright, or at least in October sometime, Jimmy Jo Wright has her newest book, Spectres in the Glass House, coming out, and Stormlight is coming out in December. Stormlight number 5. Just have those on your radar as well. Now, if you guys know of any good sounding books coming out in the next 3 months, leave a comment below. I always love your guys' suggestions. I get lots of ideas for my TBR from your comments, so let me know. And also, if you've already been able to read any of these books that are coming out, if they're worth reading or not, always let me know that as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.